Danny Cherry, an independent consultant, so I work for me, and I specialize in a few things, mostly SQL Server performance tuning, high availability, virtualization, storage configuration, pretty much anything that really needs to get done to get a database project from front to back and completely done all the way through. At Silicon Valley SQL Saturday, I was talking about storage configurations and what the database administrator really needs to know in order to get a good experience and a good conversation going with their storage admin. So a lot of boring stuff like terminology, but some performance stuff in there as well. So to really get the best out of the storage that you can get presented and learn how to ask the right questions of the storage team. One of the big takeaways is don't just ask for space. You need to keep performance in mind when you ask for storage space from a storage team. You know, a lot of people just go, I need a terabyte of storage. Well, that's great, but you need a terabyte of really slow storage or a terabyte of really fast storage. Because if you don't specify, you're going to get slow storage because they're going to start you there and work you up to the faster storage because they're going to give you the cheap stuff first because it's cheap and they want to save the good stuff for those that need it. There were some good questions during the session. A lot of it's usually vendor specific stuff because one of the downsides of storage is every vendor does something completely different than every other vendor. So there were some very specific questions about like how NetApp does things and some of the best practices they recommend versus some of the best practices that like Microsoft typically recommends. And my big answer there was basically if your storage vendor is telling you something very specific that's different from what Microsoft typically recommends, the storage vendor is probably doing that for a reason. So in this case, it was NetApp and the fact that they recommend 4K blocks over 64K blocks. And that's because of the way they have their underlying architecture of the storage arrays configured. So it actually makes sense in their case to deviate from the Microsoft standard and go with actually their best practice standard. But it's all because of the way that they have the specific file system. And so the question in this case was, well, which should I use? I've got these two conflicting documents, and I don't know which one to pick as the right way to do it. And so in this case, the vendor-specific way is the right way to do it, for this situation. I'm ashamed to say I started as an Access developer, built a project in Access, and so that's where I started and got working through, and we blew out Access in like 3 days. It couldn't handle the workload we were putting on it anymore. So I had a SQL 7 book written by somebody, sadly enough, probably one of my friends now, and so I grabbed the book, had the SQL 7 CD in it, threw it in the machine, threw SQL on there, moved all the data, got everything ported up, and just haven't looked back since. It's been going nuts on SQL Server since then. SQL Saturday Silicon Valley has been a great event. We got 400 plus people hanging around here today, all getting some great learning from some of the top people in the industry. I think we've got a dozen or a half dozen MVPs on site. We got a bunch of Microsoft employees all doing some great sessions talking about some of the great new features that are going to be coming out. As soon as SQL 2012 RTMs, which should be a week or a month or two away from now. There's tons and tons of great fun, great people to talk to. Lots of networking with the attendees and all the other speakers, and it's just been a great day to be here in the area.